Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios today. Earlier, we were listening to the joint press conference of the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, and the Tajik head of the state, Imam Ali Ramanov, and they were talking about the SCO summit. And interestingly, there were areas where there were MOUs which were signed, whether you talk about the industrial property or the output or the corporation, or you talk about tourism for that matter, or you talk about financial intelligence. But one of the most important issues that came under discussion, and that was discussed in detail, was about the Afghanistan situation. Prime Minister again emphasized that we will try our level best to make sure that the Pashtun factor should start having negotiations with all the Tajiks, and perhaps that's how we can bring in harmony and peace. And he also emphasized that the Tajik government should also play their role, though he also at the same time talked about the importance of dialogue, importance of the inclusive government, or a broad-based government, as they say. And then they also talked about that the Afghan people, they have suffered for the last 40 plus years, and now this is the time when the peace has returned to Afghanistan. The entire regional group of countries should make sure that they should give support to the Afghan Taliban and just do not let them be on their own. This is a time when they need financial support, and they need support in all the possible manners that the Pakistani government or perhaps the major players like Russia and China can do. Since we do not have much time, but let me quickly introduce you to our panelists, and we'll continue from there. We have with us in our studio, on my right, is Brigadier Retired Saleem Qamar, Senior Analyst and also a columnist. Thank you so much for your time, Brigadier Saab. And on Skype, we have with us Waqar Rizwi Saab, who is a senior journalist. Along with him, we have Masood Khalid Saab, a former ambassador. Present, very, I would say thank you so much, and what a pleasure to have both of you gentlemen in our program. Thank you so much for your time. But Brigadier Saab, since we hardly have around 20-21 minutes, so we'll be very focused. Now, first of all, sir, the importance of SCO, especially in the perspective of the current situation that has developed during the last 4 to 5 weeks in Kabul. Let's start from there, sir.
Right. Keeping in view that we have a short time, let me tell you that I've been defense advisor in Central Asia for 3 long years, and as regards the importance of SCO, it took off, say, virtually in 2021, 23. They had 6 members. Today they have 9 members, in which Pakistan, India, Iran, and 4 Central Asian republics are there. Less Turkmenistan, rest everybody is there. Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan. And of course, the greater mentor, the originator is China, which is running BRI through the region. And region, when we say the region is Central Asia, which is a gateway to Eurasia. And as you know, Brzezinski said, anybody who rules Eurasia dominates the whole world. So that is the importance of the region. And when SCO countries, they are discussing today landlocked Afghanistan, which has just been vacated by the superpowers of the world. So SCO has to fill in that vacuum, which is the most desired area of influence that US and allies wanted to occupy, which they could not despite their efforts of 20 long years. Eurasia, as you know, Afghanistan and Central Asian republics, they are full of hydrocarbons. They have precious metals. You must have heard today, today they kick-started the project to explore gold from Afghanistan. Already there are estimates of $1 trillion+ precious metal used for semiconductors. So Afghanistan alone has so much to explore. And when China is there, and Russia is there, Pakistan is there, BRI, road connectivity is there. So everything is connecting with through Pakistan, through CPEC project. So nothing is more important than peace in Afghanistan, because as you know, CASA project, the Central Asia, South Asia project, which is the transmission of 1,300 megawatt electricity, direct high voltage current through this project, which is funded by World Bank and a number of other banks. This is a mega project which would reduce the electricity tariff in Pakistan, and of course it would also illuminate Afghanistan. So when SCO is sitting together and they are making their commitment for bringing stability, and the stability means the economic stability, not leaving Afghanistan in doldrum because they have been devastated by 20 years of war. So today they need some economic investment. If US does not release $9.5 billion frozen, which is the Afghan money, and if they do not return 22 tons of gold to them, and the European Union doesn't release $330 billion of Afghans, so what Afghans need to pay their salaries to run their normal system? They need money. And China is there to do that investment. Russia is there. And now the four Central Asian republics, when I say Kazakhstan is a G20, it's a very rich country.
Yes.
Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan are not very rich countries. But significantly, when they open up their trade, they will directly help. Pakistan would obviously open up their trade. So this is the way I think we can directly contribute in rebuilding of Afghanistan. And obviously, everybody wants from Taliban that they should fulfill their commitment. What commitment?
The real purpose was primarily to rebuild Afghanistan and bring back life to normal. Now, this is something which seems like a very, very tough task, I would say.
Yep.
But commitment seems to be there. But sir, again, there are certain players which are even now playing a negative role. I mean, you listen to the American Secretary of State and you'll get to know what exactly is brewing in their mind, what's happening in India and otherwise. I mean, perhaps they really are against the Taliban. I fail to understand what exactly. I believe they do not have a plan, and they never had a plan.
I would slightly tell you, Faisal. I think there is a saying that they have a plan in chaos, right? So it's a managed chaos, which we have seen in the last 20 years. What Becky Anderson interview on the CNN, the questions which were asked are the questions which were there in 2002, just after 2001 invasion of Afghanistan. These were the questions which were always peddled in order to paint Pakistan in dark shades and project Pakistan into 20 years as a scapegoat. Again, or as you pointed out, all efforts seem to be geared up again. What is Blinken saying? What is American media saying? What is the Indian and the Western media saying? Painting Pakistan again as a center of trouble. Same kind of acquisition which we have been hearing, Taliban, Haqqani network, they're the rulers. They're the winners. They have defeated you all. They have kicked you all. So you have all the right to blame them now.
Maybe they are not ready to accept the reality.
And you see, just 7 days ago, all the foreign ministers, the services chief, the intelligence chief, including the CIA director, was sitting here begging Pakistan to give them a safe exit. The moment this exit is complete, all guns are again pointing towards Pakistan. So we got to be now wiser, and we are alhamdulillah wiser. And this
SCO, the indirect pressure on Pakistan to do more. I mean, that will come again.
SCO acquisition is the vindication of the point. Right. Pakistan or Afghanistan are no more alone. The whole regional countries.
It's a different ball game this time, sir. But sir, if you allow me, we'll also talk to Masood Khalid sir, the former ambassador, sir. Excellency, one important area, and that is about. We've always been talking about the important role of the regional countries, whether these are the STAN countries or China or Russia perhaps, Iran or Pakistan. But now, sir, after about 4 weeks of the Kabul, capturing of the Kabul, it seems that now the West is perhaps on one page, and the related countries which mean a lot to Afghanistan, they are on the other page. There seems to be some sort of a disconnect. Everybody used to talk about bringing in peace in Afghanistan. Finally, the peace is there. We just need that there should be a proper, consistent, moral, diplomatic, political and financial support for the people of Afghanistan. Now the equation seems to be pretty confusion, sir. Would you like to throw light on that? Masood Khalid, sir.
Thank you. Absolutely, I agree. There is a disconnect. And the problem with the Western countries is that they are wiser after the event. Now, logically and rationally, it's a fait accompli. It is a reality that Taliban have taken over Afghanistan. And they have somehow established their...
Very kindly, please raise the voice, sir.
Yeah,
if you could speak a little louder, sir.
They have taken over Afghanistan and they are now the de facto rulers. So logically and rationally, I think the West should be engaging with them. This is what Pakistan is saying, and I mean, just before the Prime Minister said it very rightly that it's a defining moment for Afghanistan, defining moment for the region. But the responsibility also lies on the shoulders of Taliban. The international community and regional countries also, including Pakistan, we are expecting that they will be more outgoing, that they will sort of reach out to other factions in Afghanistan and they will work for a broad-based representative government, because that will help them gain international legitimacy. The recognition they seek, I think that will help. And more importantly, the economic assistance, the economic help. Afghanistan is soon, very quickly drifting into an economic meltdown. And I think that needs to be avoided at all costs. Although at the appeal of the UN Secretary General, the international community has pledged $1 billion, but more is needed in Afghanistan. It is a war-torn economy. So I think for economic help, which is direly needed at this point in time, for their recognition, for international legitimacy, Taliban have to sort of, reach out and broaden their base, because it will be in their long-term interest. And this initiative, which was discussed between the President of Tajikistan and Prime Minister Imran to somehow, work for a patch-up in Panjshir, I think it is a timely move. I hope they succeed. But right now the positions are very rigid. Now, as far as the importance of the region is concerned, I think I would not be wrong in saying that all the countries of the region are concerned over, these terrorist outfits which exist in Afghanistan. At least three, of these outfits are a direct threat to Pakistan. One of them is a threat to China. IMU is a threat to Uzbekistan and to Central Asian countries. And Russia is also concerned that this terrorism and militancy does not spill over into their, regions which are Muslim. And then, over and above that, there is also a concern of, narcotics trafficking. So, when there is a chaos in a country, when there is uncertainty and anarchy in a country, all these, groups, they form a syndicate, crime syndicates, weapons smuggling and all that. So Afghanistan has to come out of that, and hopefully that will be the past, and there will be a future which is good for the region in terms of economic development, as the Brigadier Saab rightly pointed out. Afghanistan is sitting on a treasure trove, and if time allows and if stability is there, China will come in, even the Europeans will come in. I tell you, they will come in. Canada will come in. Australia will come in. But right now they have taken a very rigid and very untenable position not to engage with Taliban, and this is very unrealistic, and this is not something which is contributing to peace. And for Pakistan, obviously, if there is anarchy, we can also see an influx of refugees in a big number. So how will we handle that? So these are some of the factors which are very, very important for us and for the regional countries, and it's a very complicated situation. It can go either way. It can go either way.
Masood, Khalid Saab, now I'll just go to Waqar, Rizwi Saab. Rizwi Saab, even the United Nations General Secretary also says that cash needs to be injected in the Afghan economy. Support should be there. There seems to be shortage of food items. There is a scarcity of medicines. I mean, obviously it's a war-torn country. It's coming back to life. But obviously when you talk about bringing that country back to life means there has to be a lot of effort made, and genuine effort from all the sides. Now, there seems to be certain countries they are willing to support, but at the same time, when we look at the Western media or the Western countries, they are constantly and consistently trying to malign the Taliban regime, showing all what perhaps they have done in the past, not at the moment. They are always talking about the women's rights. I mean, that's a very debatable, point. But having said that, I think they're moving in the right direction. All they need is proper recognition and a lot of support, as the Prime Minister earlier mentioned. That's the only way forward. Your take, sir.
To be honest, I'm going to be a little less forgiving of the Taliban than you have been. Of course, it's a wait-and-see game. They have to prove themselves, right? And that's something that even the Prime Minister Imran has said, right? That needs to be proven. They need to live by their promises. And once that then happens, then we'll have more recognition for the Taliban government as well, if that is to occur. If it is inclusive, certainly, as our other two panelists have mentioned as well. You know, during my 13 years in Iran, I can say that, you know, for the Iranians as well, this is extremely important, right? They cannot afford, and we're talking about, of course, the context of a pandemic as well. So no regional country at this point in time has the economic capacity or willingness, really, to put themselves on the line to A, take in refugees, and B, be the financier for any Afghan government going forward. Certainly, yes, it would make regional cooperation much easier if the Taliban were to live by their promises, if they were to ensure that there is stability and, you know, unity within all the factions in the country, which at this point in time, you know, we can argue both ways, that in some cases it does exist, in some cases it does not. So the Iranians view this with a lot of skepticism, right? Even though there was that surprise news, right, that came out that in 2015, the late General Soleimani signed that deal with the Taliban, in fact, and that was at the height of a time where the Iranians weren't really getting along with the Taliban, as we well know. Nevertheless, the Iranians, as well as, of course, our own country, Pakistan, realize that you have to make it work with the Taliban. For regional safety and security, for your own borders to be secure, and for stability. Because, you know, if we talk about the economy improving, it cannot improve logically, certainly, if there is insecurity on your borders. So the Iranians badly need economic growth. The Pakistanis certainly as well want it. Our Prime Minister continues to say that is one of his major goals domestically. And that can only again happen if your borders are secure, if your region is secure. We now have Iran newly crowned as an SCO member. How much of a role will it play now in influencing the SCO decisions going forward vis-a-vis Afghanistan? Those are really, really important points to see as well.
But do you think that the Iranians, they are in one way or the other still under the influence of the Indians when it comes to decision-making process at the top level?
You know, I think that the Iranians played both ways, right? So the Iranians, for better or worse, and I'm not taking either side on this regard, but, you know, even when I was in the country, that was always the question that I had from the Iranians that I would speak to and the officials I would speak to. I think they play both sides, and I think that that's just what they feel is within their national interest, and we can argue that both ways, good or bad. If that has actually really been of benefit to them or not, and that's very questionable, especially under the Modi government. But nevertheless, you know, I think that the Iranians also, as in, you know, we have commonalities with them when it comes to Afghanistan, and we need to work on those commonalities. So, you know, we had that very important meeting between the Prime Minister Khan as well as Ibrahim Raisi, the new president of Iran. Yes, the Iranians, we know very much there have been statements by certain Iranian MPs which have been very critical of Pakistan, but I do not think that represents the establishment itself. I think at the very top level of Iran, so I'm talking about Ayatollah Khamenei, for example, I think that he is a lot more nuanced in understanding that they need to work with the Pakistanis as well if they want stability on their borders, and I'm talking about the border with Afghanistan.
All right. Thank you so much, Waqar, Rizwi, for your comments. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I wish we had more time, but I promise you that we'll be having you, inshallah, regularly in the coming days. And so is the case with Ambassador Masood Khalid Saab. Thank you so much for your presence as well, sir. But again, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Last 1 minute, sir.
I think I heard a very important thing. Prime Minister was sitting with the President of Tajikistan, and there was some discussion point on punctuality. And I think both the Prime Minister Imran and the Tajik President accepted for them a very great responsibility, which is a heavy lift for both the countries, prevailing upon Taliban, prevailing upon Panjshir Wali guys who are basically the Tajiks. So we've got to keep in mind who actually has the influence in the Panjshir Wali. Are they pro-Afghanistan?
But the latest report
finish. Are they pro-Afghanistan, the people who are fighting in Panjshir Valley, or are they pro-Pakistan? They aren't. So when we say that we will prevail upon Taliban, we got to be extremely skeptical, and we must realize who are the countries who are playing this last-ditch card in Panjshir Valley.
We all know, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you do not have leverages on those countries who are actually playing that dirty card in Panjshir Valley. And I leave it there. As regards Taliban, desire at the moment is that they should get political recognition from the regional and extra-regional countries so that they can open up to the world. And that is what Prime Minister Imran Khan was pleading. But they have to make two commitments fulfilled. The interim government must hold elections as early as possible and announce a broad-based government which should have representation. And second most important point is that Taliban must prevail within the complete territory of Afghanistan so that it is not used against Pakistan or any other country, because there are still reports of a lot of crossing efforts by the miscreants who are still coming to Pakistan.
That's the reality, sir. It's very, very unfortunate.
I'll leave it there. We don't have time to
yes, I think we should be covering a lot more in the coming week also, sir.
Sure.
But thank you very much, sir, for your presence on the show. And that's all we have for this week. I'll see you, inshallah, on Monday. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Have a great weekend. Khuda Hafiz.